Welcome to our first webinar in a quarterly series for the Inventors Patent Academy. We're so glad you've joined us for the discussion about patenting, the issues underrepresented communities face in patenting, and how the Inventors Patent Academy, or as we call it, TIPA, can help innovators protect their IP. And now, let's have our distinguished panelists introduce themselves.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Kelly, and I am the principal consultant and founder of Hexalign. We have two main service lines. One is direct support through training education for inventors, researchers, and entrepreneurs. The second is indirect support through the implementation of equity, diversity, and inclusion best practices. We help organizations and institutions change how they operate so that they serve more marginalized inventors and serve them more effectively. Our strategy is to help inventors navigate systems as they exist now and work to change those systems to make them more equitable.
Hi, I'm Bernie Greenspan. I'm very happy to be part of the Inventors Patent Academy program. I'm a biophysicist and a patent agent. I spent the first 20 years of my career in research on aerosol physics, inhalation toxicology, and respiratory drug delivery. During that time, I was an inventor on 11 US patents. For the past 22 years in my second career, I've been working as an in-house and as a consultant on IP strategies and portfolio management in pharmaceutical, medical device, and diagnostics companies. I also teach several intellectual property courses and patent courses at schools in San Diego and Bellevue College in Washington State. I look forward to helping you on your path to becoming an inventor.
Thank you, Stephanie, Erin, and Bernie. I'm Shudipto Roy, Vice President of Engineering at Qualcomm Incorporated in San Diego, where I have actually spent nearly 3 decades in various roles that empower companies who use Qualcomm's technologies, and more recently, inventors, startups, and universities to utilize advanced technology and transform their own inventions into reality. As you can tell, my passion lies in fostering innovation ecosystems throughout the globe, and we operate in innovation hubs in many countries, including India, Taiwan, Vietnam, Africa, and of course here in the US. I was Bernie's student at UCSD Extension and learned about IP and patent and trademark searching from him, and collaborating with the Invent Together team broadly, Erin as our EDI expert and Bernie over the past 2 years has been an absolute thrill, and it has been a lot of fun putting together the Inventors Patent Academy.
Amazing. Well, we're all excited to have you here. And for everyone that has joined us this morning, in just a moment, you're going to see a poll that will ask you the question of where are you on your invention journey? So whether you're a future inventor ready to apply for a patent application holder, or whether you're working with inventors, go ahead and take a moment to vote in the poll. And when you're done, just go ahead and exit out the window. Thank you so much. All right, so having said that, Sudipto, can you provide us with a quick overview of the Inventors Patent Academy and why it was developed? Let's go ahead and take a look at the website and you can walk us through it. Does that sound good?
Sounds great. Thank you, Stephanie. So TIPA is a learning resource from Invent Together, designed in collaboration with Qualcomm. And as you know, Qualcomm is a leading innovator in wireless computing and AI technologies. A quick word about Invent Together. It's an alliance of universities, nonprofits, companies, and other stakeholders who are dedicated to understanding the diversity gaps in invention and patenting, and in supporting public policy and private efforts to close these gaps. So Invent Together and Qualcomm created TIPA to help diversity gaps in patenting. The USPTO, the United States Patent and Trademarks Office, and leading researchers have found that women, people of color, and individuals with lower incomes patent inventions at a significantly lower rate than their representation in the STEM population. And the lack of patent education is one of the many reasons why these disparities exist. So TIPA tries to address this segment of the set of solutions that we need to bring to bear to solving this problem. So we are closing the education gap. And the way we do this is by complementing other IP learning resources that are available by offering three distinct features in our course. The first one is we address the barriers that inventors from marginalized backgrounds might face, and we talk about them squarely in the course, and we actually offer practical tips as to how you can overcome those barriers. The second distinctive feature of the course is we take an inventor's perspective. Most of the courses out there actually speak to the law as it is and they try to explain the law, and certainly we do that. But now we turn it around and we say, what does the inventor, what does she need to know so that she has the terminology and understanding to have a very, very productive outcome when she works with a patent agent or a patent attorney in filing her patent? And more importantly, what should she expect from the USPTO's process? And when various office actions happen, how does she anticipate and calibrate her reaction to those? And lastly, the best part of the course, we have featured 6 inventors in the course. And each of these inventors, they talk about their inventive journey, their patenting journey, how they found their first patent lawyer. In some cases, these inventors have gone on to build entire patent portfolios. So there is a great deal of learning from their life experiences in the area of inventiveness and patenting.
That's
So
amazing.
Stephanie, back over to you.
Thank you. And so, Dito, I understand we have an example of an inventor featured in the course. Shall we go ahead and take a look?
Indeed.
Thank you.
If you had a great idea, you're tinkering around in your backyard, and you don't have a lot of funding, you're just a regular person, but you want to patent your technology, this is what I would tell you to do. First, I would tell you to go online and read as many similar patents to yours as you possibly can. The second thing I would tell you to do is read and look up articles about how do you write claims. The third thing I would tell you to do is file your provisional so you get your date on it, and then immediately go ask your friends, families, and look for some funding so that you can turn that provisional patent into a really strong patent that's going to be issued and it's going to protect you from someone taking it in the future.
So, Dito, did you want to add a little bit more about Catherine Jen?
Yeah, I really like this particular clip that you played. Catherine is a CTO as well as a founder, a biochemist who turned her inventions to actually colorize disinfectants so that when you spray disinfectants, then you know which spots are clean and which spots are not clean, right? So when you go through TIPA and hear her journey throughout various segments of the course, you actually viscerally learn about her journey, and then it's hard not to get caught up in her excitement, and you could see that in the clip.
Love that. And team, we actually got the results from our poll, if you don't mind me sharing that with you. So we asked the question, where are you on your invention journey? And 32% of participants answered that they are a future inventor, 7% inventor ready to apply for a patent, 7% patent applicant holder, and 32% I work with inventors, patent practitioners, tech transfer office, etc. And 36% was other. Good. Now, Bernie, I have a question for you. Can you explain why, in your view, patenting is so important and valuable to an inventor?
Oh, absolutely. So it's important to understand that a patent is the right to stop others from making, using, or selling your claimed invention. And without a patent, the invention or the product that you'll ultimately want to develop could be freely copied by competitors or anyone else who wanted to. And that will deprive the inventor from the potential income from the invention. The rights granted from a patent can also be used for generating income in a number of other ways. So suppose you don't want to actually start a company and start manufacturing the product yourself, you can actually license the rights to the patent to another company who can do that for you and receive a royalty and then move on to invent something else and generate a nice stream of passive royalty income. Alternatively, you can sell the rights to your patent directly to another company or do it in a combination. So there are many ways that you can monetize your invention, but without a patent, people will not necessarily be interested in that.
That's fascinating. And Erin, you have so much experience with all of this. Can you explain how you address systemic barriers in the course's very first module?
Yes, absolutely. So invention and commercialization can be an isolating road. Inventors need to spend a lot of time explaining and defending the worth and viability of their inventions. On top of that, marginalized inventors continue to face systemic barriers. For example, stereotypes of who inventors are, access to trusted resources, networks, sponsors, and capital, to name a few. Our inventors share some really moving stories about their experiences overcoming these challenges, and their stories bring to life the module's discussion of what the research tells us about these systemic barriers. By pairing these, Module 1 emphasizes that inventors are not alone when they experience these challenges. Module 1 also has lots of practical, action-oriented strategies for responding to these systemic barriers. Unfortunately, the same systemic barriers that inventors may have experienced in academia or their professional life are also present in the patenting system. So knowing more about these barriers and strategies for countering them will help inventors be prepared and advocate for themselves and for their inventions. A lot of education or feedback given in the innovation space sends mixed messages to marginalized inventors. On one hand, inventors are told repeatedly that their authenticity is an important asset, but on the other hand, marginalized inventors are given advice or feedback that they need to look or act a certain way in order to accomplish their goals, and this robs them of that authenticity. So as part of Module 1, we wanted to really emphasize that we want any inventor who wants to invent, be yourself. That's where your inventions come from, and you are welcome in this space.
That's absolutely fascinating. I love that you have that as your very first module to inspire our participants and inventors who really want to go through this process. And having said that, Sudipto, what has been your experience working with startups globally as to patenting their practice and the relevance to their business?
Absolutely. So outside of our country, when startups face the range of activities that they have to engage in, to be quite honest, patenting is not foremost in their mind. And this is a barrier that we have to overcome, right? And Stephanie, if you can bring up a slide real quick, if I'll illustrate the point I would like to make. As I mentioned earlier, we operate startup accelerators in a handful of countries. And the examples I have here are from India, Taiwan, and Vietnam. And these are amazing startups, but like I said earlier, they don't prioritize patenting from the get-go for a variety of reasons. Cost, they have other opportunities for devoting their energies, and also, frankly, lack of knowledge about patenting. But the rather busy graph I have on the left side of this chart, what it actually portrays is that during our incubation programs, we imparted patenting knowledge and we encouraged these startups to file patents. And that's only a tiny handful of patents that got generated during that process. But what happened afterwards is spectacular. Collectively, we have in this chart 710 patents filed by about 100 plus startups globally. So the point of this chart is that once the knowledge is imparted, startups actually understand why it is important, particularly for helping them with improving the valuation of the companies. When they meet with their investors, they basically say that, hey, not only I have a novel and cool invention that is useful, but I also have a moat around it, and I can prove to you because my patents got examined in India, in Taiwan, in China, in Vietnam, in Europe, in the US by very tough patent officers who have come in and said that yes, the novelty, the non-obviousness are valid for these patents, right? So again, I just wanted to give this illustration that we have been able to encourage startups to make patenting part of their sort of what I call as the five-prong success strategy, which obviously includes innovation, includes product development, includes marketing and branding, and of course, focus on increasing sales. But the fifth ingredient is put a moat around your inventions.
Put a moat around your inventions. That is so smart. And so having said that, when you talk about startups, here's a follow-up question for you, Sudipto. Is TIPA applicable to inventors in corporate positions as well as academic environments?
Absolutely. I mean, my employer is a testament to how it is important in the corporate setting. One thing I like to say about Qualcomm is it's probably the largest company you know not a whole lot about. Why? We are a B2B company. Our products and services are given to others who build the amazing phones or automated driving cars or routers or other inventions that we commercially use. So the only currency that we have is that of actually inventions that we can share with others. And the way we do that is by standardizing many of those inventions and driving common consensus towards those standardized inventions. And as a result, the world gets something like 4G or now 5G, and soon, by the turn of this decade, 6G. In academic environments, particularly in the US, the inventions that come out of our universities are absolutely groundbreaking and world-changing, right? We wouldn't have a transistor or a semiconductor or even the mRNA vaccine without the inventive work, what comes out of our universities and researchers.
And that's so important. Thank you, Sudipto. That was so insightful. Aaron, I have a question for you. Because again, you are such a rock star at this. So why is protecting IP prior to commercialization important for underrepresented inventors?
That's a great question. So there is a lot of literature about the causes of the patenting gap that Sudipto spoke to earlier. The research on systemic barriers show that the research on how systemic barriers impact commercialization shows that marginalized inventors regularly don't get credit for their contributions to their own inventions. This manifests in a variety of ways, including barriers to access to information, idea theft from collaborators or inventors, and some of the other systemic barriers that I spoke of before. So in protecting intellectual property as early as possible is one important way that marginalized inventors can ensure that they are credited for their work. Throughout the course, there are important concepts and practical tips that empower inventors at any stage of the invention journey, so they have what they need to get the strongest protections possible. So every new patent awarded to a marginalized inventor contributes to the growing momentum to close the gaps in patent holder diversity. Increased participation in invention and patenting by members of systemically excluded groups would quadruple the number of American inventors, increase annual GDP by almost $1 trillion, wow. and lead to increased generational wealth development and bring about a greater diversity of inventions available to solve problems and improve lives.
That's amazing. Thank you. And Bernie, what advice, other than registering, obviously for TIPA, do you give to budding inventors?
Yeah, well, I think the advice applies to all of the inventors, but it was really encouraging to hear people respond that 32% of our attendees are see themselves as future inventors. So I have 5 pieces of advice. First, you have to learn how the patent system works and learn the vocabulary of patents. And the reason for this is so that when you're amongst the legal and tech transfer people, that you'll use their language so they'll hear you. Otherwise, the way you express your invention might not be heard by them. And as Erin talks about, being recognized for your contribution, that may not happen. And the other reason to learn the vocabulary of patents is to understand what your patent attorney or patent agent is doing, because they're going to talk to you in their language, and it may be hard to understand exactly what they want. Or when the patent office sends you some correspondence, knowing what that language is will help you deal with it. The second thing is to document your contributions in your laboratory notebook or engineering notebook if you're in a company, or if you're an independent inventor, be sure you have a journal where you document what you're doing. The third thing, which I think we've already heard, is be sure you file your patent application before you publish anything if you're in a university, or you disclose things to the public, because disclosure before you file can destroy your patent rights. And fourth is seek help from a patent attorney or an agent who understands your technology. There are a lot of people out there who can help you, but generally they specialize in certain areas. So you want to find someone who can understand what it is that you're doing. And fifth, please don't do this on your own, because it may seem simple enough to try to file your own patent application, but that's really going to cause more problems and expense down the road, and you may actually lose some of the rights that you wish you could have recovered.
That is so helpful. How do you even choose the right patent attorney? Like, what do you look for?
Well, you look for someone that you feel comfortable talking to, who understands your values, that doesn't, I'm going to say some of the things I think Erin has taught me in essence, is that really supports you in your journey. And if you're in a marginalized group, that you don't feel that from them as well. So that's really, really very important. Sometimes people choose them based on cost, but that can't always be the only factor. There are expensive firms that do great jobs, or you may not connect with. There are less expensive patent agents that do great jobs, but you may not connect with either. So it's really kind of putting all of those factors together. In the course, we actually give some questions and things that you should evaluate, that you can ask the attorney and help you make that decision for yourself.
Speaking of the course itself, Erin, as I understand it, there's a valuable reference guide, like the resource hub inside of TIPA. Can you explain what's included in that particular guide? Muted.
Yeah, so if you take the first module, it goes into why the history of the course, as well as some things to keep in mind as you work your way through the course. And so one of those is a values exercise, and then we get a little bit into information about commercialization, but that's kind of beyond the scope of the course. So one of those sections of the Resource Hub has a list of tools and great websites and programs that can help you with that piece of the journey. There's also a big list of firms, organizations, nonprofits that are really looking to support marginalized inventors, either through programming or some of them are funding organizations. And then there's a ton of info that we've gathered around patent education, what the USPTO is offering in terms of programming. And so, go through the course, there's so much great information. And then as you're going through your patent application process, come back, because it's all there for you, and you can get a refresher and then, look to find support from some of these other areas.
It's so helpful. I love how in-depth TIPA and the courses and how everyone is adding all of their knowledge, their experience, the background, the resources. It seems like you've all have it figured out. Having said that, for those of you that are watching live, if you have any questions for all three of our panelists, go ahead and drop them into the chat. We're taking a look at those right now. Here's another question that I have for the panelists as we wait for those questions to come in. When we talk about TIPA and everything else, what are your key takeaways that you hope students, startups, and innovators will learn from TIPA? Let's start with Erin.
Yeah, thanks. So first, I hope that folks are inspired by the inventors who have shared their stories in the course. Their stories are just a few out there that I find incredibly inspiring with some of the barriers that they've had to overcome and the products that they're making. And they're just a few of many marginalized inventors who have successfully been awarded patents. And some of those folks are in your networks. So talk to people and find them. Second, I hope folks who take the course walk away feeling confident in their ability to navigate the patenting process. And I don't mean doing it on your own, but rather having the knowledge, having the right questions to advocate for yourself and be awarded that strongest protection for your invention that you can. Knowing where to find help, for example, through your networks, your institutions, patent professionals, and tech transfer offices. The knowledge and strategies in the course will help inventors advocate for their inventions and develop effective relationships with the people that make the patenting system go. And finally, you're not alone. When many people have these experiences, many people have the same questions that you do. So to talk to people and hear their stories and hear their questions as well, they're a major form of support for you.
It's always so interesting. I feel like sometimes when we're working on projects, we like to hide in our offices and just be in our lane and try to fumble our way through it. But you've developed and created this course, this community, and I love that you're encouraging everyone to share their stories, their experiences, so that way we can all leverage each other's resources and go from there. So thank you. Great. And Bernie, what about you? What are your key takeaways that you hope students, startups, and innovators will learn from TIPA?
Yeah, but before I answer that, I wanted to add one little thing about a resource that's in the course. And we have information about the Patent Office Pro Bono program, which will provide a link between inventors and attorneys and agents that are willing to help the inventor get their application written, drafted, and filed at little or no cost, except the filing fee, the official filing fees. And there are offices throughout the country. So I encourage people to look at that section of the course because it's a wonderful resource that the Patent Office provides. So in terms of takeaways, one of the things that happens to inventors, it happened to me when I had my first patent application, is that the Patent Office will issue a rejection of the claims that are filed and give reasons for this rejection. And you look at that and you go, oh, I guess my invention isn't really novel and I'm never going to get a patent. And the important thing to remember is that it's the patent examiner's job to be sure that the scope of the claims are outside of the prior art, that the invention is novel outside of the prior art and not obvious. And it usually takes the form of what they call a rejection. And when you receive that, it's natural to feel discouraged and maybe want to give up, but don't, because there are many, many ways to respond to these rejections. And the examiners actually expect you to have a respectful argument with them back and forth about why the claims are patentable. So that to me is something really critical for all inventors, no matter what stage you're at.
Very helpful. Well, Bernie, we have another question for you, if you don't mind. And this comes from Hugh Bailey. Hugh Bailey asks, do I have to execute an NDA with the university to help research and help develop an invention idea? At what stage of this process should I consider filing for a patent?
So if you're an independent inventor, so you're not employed by the university, is what I'm assuming, then yes, if you wanted to talk to the university, you would want to have a non-disclosure agreement in place before you tell them what your invention is. It protects you for several reasons. One, the non-disclosure agreement assures that in the legal realm, what you're talking about is not considered a public disclosure, and which would destroy your rights. Then I'm going to assume that the people you are talking to are trustworthy and they're not going to take your invention. But it's important still to have that legal document in place, because sometimes ideas that people hear, they forget where they hear them. When do you file your application in this process depends on, people say, how ripe your invention is for patenting. If you can formulate some claims to what you think your invention is, file a provisional application. Take that enthusiasm that Catherine showed us, file it. You can always have follow-on provisional applications, and you have a 1-year period to really firm up everything. But the NDA is definitely important before you talk about your invention, and filing your provisional is important when you can distinctly describe and claim what it is that you've invented.
That's so helpful. I have so many of my friends of mine that have their own patents pending and whatnot. Here's a question from Erica Lawson, and this is from anyone on the team that would like to answer. I've heard that patenting is very expensive. What are my options if I cannot afford this process?
Wow. It can be very expensive. Depending on the technology you're in, some law firms, it could cost you $10,000 to $15,000 by the time you get a provisional and then turn that into a non-provisional utility patent application. So instead of a law firm, maybe a patent agent might charge you less to prepare your application, or an independent practitioner, be it an attorney or an agent, might be able to do that. Some firms actually write applications on a contingency, and where they either wait until you receive your funding before you have to pay them. But it's important, though, that if your invention is something that you are committed to bringing to market and turning into a product, then you have to remember that without a patent, it will be very, very difficult to secure additional funding.
Very helpful. And so, Dito, we have a question for you. What's the cost for the course? When does it start?
Oh, the cost of the course. Oh, it's a big, big, big number, $0. It's a free course, and we designed it for it to be accessible. And I'm really proud of Invent Together, Qualcomm, and all my colleagues that we're able to pool our expertise and bring this together as a resource. And a bit later, I will comment on some of the feedback we received, right? But short answer, $0, free to take.
I love that. Here's another question that we have. This one is from Eden Murray. Are there any organizations or lawyers that provide pro bono patent assistance? If so, who? Would that be in the course somewhere, in the resource guide?
Yeah, in the course, there are links and reference to the USPTO pro bono program, and they maintain this list, and they vet the firms that are involved in the pro bono program. There are also law clinics at many universities, and they become part of the pro bono program, but some of them may not be. But you can go to some local law schools and find out if they have a clinic. Those clinics are ways that they train future patent attorneys, but they're always supervised by an experienced one, so you're not getting substandard work to get your application written. that can be a cost-effective way to do it. There are some inventor groups around the country that bring in attorneys and will do pro bono or low-cost supportive work. Those may be less publicized through the patent office, but look in your community to see if there are any inventor groups or inventor organizations.
That's so helpful.
And
Go ahead.
I also wanted to add, this is a little bit less about the capital question, but there is another really interesting USPTO program called the First Time Filer Expedited Program, and they really want applicants. They've asked us to help promote. And it's great because it's specifically designed for first-time filers, and so there's extra assistance and as well as that faster time of the patent prosecution process. So if that's something that fits with your situation, definitely look into it.
And we've got a lot of great questions so far. Go ahead, Bernie.
Can I quickly add something that,
of course.
Normally we think of our relationship with the examiners as being adversarial, and the examiners actually want people to get patents. They just can't give everyone a patent for everything that they write. So that's where the rejections and back and forth come in. But in the first time filer program, it's an opportunity for the examiner at least to explain a little more simply. They're given time to help the applicant understand the office action in a way that normally doesn't take place in the office actions that are written. But at the same time, you have to realize that the examiners cannot give you legal advice, and they can't make the decision for you as to what's right or not. So they may say, well, I can allow this claim, a particular claim for you. And then as the applicant, you have to go back and decide, is that what I really want? Does that work for me? Could I really get a better claim than what they told me? And that's where other advice comes in handy.
Very helpful. And this goes out to Angela King, Appy B, the anonymous attendee, where everyone is asking, where can they get this course for free? Where can they find this? Adipta, do you want to share the answer? Where do you keep this wonderful course?
It's so if you go to learn.inventtogether, one word, .org, then it'll take you straight to the course. And I think towards the end of this webinar, we'll also put up a QR code so you can just scan that.
Absolutely. And for those of you that didn't catch that, our moderator will add that into the chat so that way you could easily click on the link and register and be a part of the course. I have to tell you, I'm so excited that everyone that's on this webinar today is excited, interested in registering and all the different things. Obviously, our panelists have shared so much amazing and wonderful information. So Deepto, there was one question I didn't have a chance to ask you quite yet. And that question is, what is your key takeaway that you hope students, inventors, innovators, all the things would take away by being a part of TIPA?
There are several, and Erin and Bernie touched on some key highlights, but I'll tell you what at least my takeaway has been, and this is a bit more personal as opposed to student takeaway, and hopefully this will resonate. So as course authors, we have the privilege of looking at the feedback that we get from students. And at first I thought the feedback, as an engineer, I thought the feedback would be about sort of the law portions of the course, the patent filing process part of it, right? And I thought people will say, hey, this is really useful, and they say that, right? But predominantly the feedback is actually on module 1, where they come back and say the values exercise has been really, really useful. It actually emphasized or brought it out, why am I in this inventing business? Why am I taking on this arduous task? It's expensive, it's difficult to understand. Why am I even embarking on this journey? The second part of the feedback was, hey, the 9 or 10 barriers that we speak about, I have experienced that. I was, literally, I was that child. I was that person who experienced that. I'm glad you dealt with it. You didn't pussyfoot around this issue, and you actually gave us practical tips of how to, if we encountered the situation, what to do about it, right? So that reaffirmed the intent of the course, which is, it's a cliche, but I'll repeat it. Everyone can invent and every inventor can patent, right? So literally that is literally the key takeaway, because that's what we are seeing being reflected back through the course feedback. And I want to kind of go back to what Bernie talked about. Yes, patenting is expensive, but think of it as a part of the toolkit for setting up a business, or part of the toolkit for advancing research, right? And a segment of our population are very good at it, and their children continue to be good at it. I have a middle school daughter, and believe it or not, a lot of the conversations at home are about invention, patenting, and such. So this is already imbued in her mind, right? So we have to get communities, folks with different backgrounds who are yet to participate in the full spectrum of the economic tools we have. We have to start. Here we are. We organize about U.S. Technical and science leadership, and we are not taking advantage of 25-30% of our STEM inventors who are yet to be fully represented, right? So again, I said a lot of things, but I'll kind of go back to what I said, that inventing is for all, and then patenting is for all inventors. That is my key takeaway.
I love that. And actually, here's a question for the entire panelists. This is from Laverne Davis, and she asked, I was wondering if after taking the course, will one also then realize that your idea is not patent worthy? What are your thoughts?
Well, you might. and that's a good thing, right? But whether there are multiple aspects and to bringing an invention forward to a product, and I think that Erin's content talks about entrepreneurship and commercialization. But from a patent point of view, you might realize that, oh, I need more data. I need more examples. I need to better define the patentable and commercializable aspect of my invention before I actually file. Because a patent doesn't protect an idea, it protects the embodiment of that idea in the claim of the patent. And you'll learn this in the course. So all of the description that you write is great, but you have to be able to write a claim. And that's where you'll learn whether or not you're ready to file your application.
Very helpful.
Let me add something too. I think so. Part of Module 1 is an overview of all of the different kinds of intellectual property. So as you go through the course, you may decide that one of those other ones actually fits better, and that's a great outcome. And so that was point number 1. Point number 2, that no-go decision, I consider that to be a success, because we're centering course users' goals. We want to support you in whatever your pathway looks like. And so giving you that information to help you make that decision, that's also a success. So then, you still can get a lot out of it with maybe you're still in a collaborative research process. You're going to have a patent in the future. And that would be great. And since you have this basis, you're going to be able to protect yourself much more as you go down that journey.
Love it. One final question. This is coming from Heather Metcalf. How has creating TIPA and working with marginalized inventors impacted or changed you and your work?
Let me start, if that's okay with Erin and Bernie. So when we started writing TIPA, it was in the middle of COVID. And it was also roughly like 6 to 9 months after George Floyd's murder, right? We are all moved by what was happening nationally. But again, speaking as an engineer, I saw those as external events that, of course, I was moved by them, but I didn't internalize this. by writing TIPA, by reading the entire academic body of research about Lisa Cook's paper, where she talks about the generational health effects, as an engineer, I certainly realized that there is a lot more to invention than just the technical beauty and the effects, right? There's the human societal aspect of it, right? And now we're in. I mean, we're not looking at patents and engineering and science in isolation. There is a very intimate societal connection. And we learned a lot from Erin. We learned a lot from several other colleagues who are part of the TIPA team from various, there are lawyers, there are program managers, there are educators, there are web designers, right? So it's a collection of a lot of experts who came together to put TIPA. And it was amazing to see how everyone brought their expertise to bring out this societal impact element. So that has been at least a personal transformation for me.
Amazing. Well, having said that, I want to thank our panelists and to everyone who attended today. Here's is a QR code for you. If you haven't already, please consider taking the TIPA course or recommend to an inventor who you think would benefit from it. All ages are welcome, of course. I have the QR code here on the screen for you, and that web link will take you to the actual TIPA course. Having said that, we will be sharing a link to the webinar in the next few days. So please join us for our next webinar in February. Mark your calendars now. And that's where we'll talk about some of the inventors who are featured in TIPA and learn about their patenting journeys. So having said that, thank you to our esteemed panelists. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.